Todos, boa
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. All protocol. Welcome to the opening of the installation inauguration of the G20 Legal. We kindly ask you to keep your cell phones in silence mode throughout the whole event. We would like to thank our sponsors, BTG Pactual and Aegea, Águas do Rio. We would like to introduce the Honorable Head Table, Mr. Beto Simonetti, Chairperson of the Brazilian Bar Association, representing the Foreign Office of Brazil, the Secretary of Brazilian Communities and Consular and Legal Matters, Ambassador Leonardo Gorgulho Nogueira Fernandes, the chairman of the executive committee for the implementation of G20 Legal, the honorary and lifelong member of the Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Marcos Vinicius Furtado Coelho, representing the municipality of Rio de Janeiro and its mayor, the secretary of the government, Mr. Felipe Santa Cruz, honorary member of the Federal Bar Association. Medal Rubabosa, Ms. Cleia Carpe, the chairperson of the Bahia chapter of the Bar Association and member of the steering committee for the implementation of the legal G20, Ms. Daniela Borges, the chairperson of Cidade das Artes, Ms. Daniela Santa Cruz, attorney at law, the chairperson of the illustrious and National College of Law from Mexico, Arturo Pablita, the chairperson of the Indian Bar Association, Mr. Prashan Kumar, and we, on his name, also greet the Indian Committee. The second section, Justice Guilherme Calmon, the Deputy Chairperson and Secretary of the Chinese Bar Association, Chen Minji, on behalf of whom we also greet the Chinese delegation, the Chairperson of the Brazilian Association of Exports, Apex Brazil, Mr. Jorge Viana, the honorary lifelong member of the Federal Bar Association and Medal Rui Barbosa, Mr. José Bernardo Cabral, the honorary and lifelong member of the Federal Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Roberto Antônio Bussabi, the honorary and lifelong member of the Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Ofir Cavalcante, the chairperson of the Rio de Janeiro Bar Association chapter, Luciano Bandeira, the chairperson of the Ceará chapter of the Brazilian Bar Association and coordinator of the chairpeople of the chapters of the Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Reinaldo Dantas, the chairperson of the Collegiate and the Mercosul Bar Association, Coabem, Mr. José Augusto Araújo Noronha, the chairman of the Advocacy School of Madrid, Mr. Eugenio Ribon Sestedos, the member of the Steering Committee for International Affairs of the Mexican Bar Association, Mr. Gustavo Santillana Menezes, the national representative of the International Association of Young Attorneys, Mr. Bruno Guarnieri, the Águas do Rio chairman, Dr. Alessandro Bianchini, Mr. Alessandro Bianchini. We will now present the video of our sponsor, BTG Pactual, sponsoring this event. The first minutes aren't enough for those who search for excellence. We have to look into all the details that will make all the difference. Because everything can be changed, transformed, when excellence is part of your life. You will always count on BTG. Invest in all the excellency you have in you. BTG Pactual. Bring BTG into your life. We will also now see the video, institutional video of AG Águas do Rio, to improve the lives of our population today, to guarantee a better planet for future generations. Our purpose goes beyond the services that we provide. We care for people, we care for the environment, and for bluer futures. We will promote sanitary inclusion, bringing water to many vulnerable families. We help to write more honored and dignified stories. We care for the environment, and this is reflected in very concrete actions. We are committed to the natural cycle of water, to our business, and to the planet. This is how we share prosperity. This is our legacy. Aegea, our nature is to move life. We would like to thank our sponsors. And now, in order to open our event, we would like to pass the floor to Mr. Beto Simonetti, the National Chairman of the Brazilian Bar Association.
Tem que ser dos dois. Senhoras e senhores,
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I now open our session of G20 Legal. And I would like to initially thank you all for this initiative. Our lifelong and honorary member, Mr. Marcos Vinicius Furtado Coelho, who gave us this opportunity to hold this event after presiding the committee, the steering committee, which allowed us to be here today and to start this important process of integration between the different bars, law colleges, and those of the different countries that are part of our G20. We'd like to thank Mr. Marcos Vinicius, the deputy chairman of this committee, Marcos Caputo Bastos, the chairperson of Bahia Bar Association, also member of the steering committee, Daniela Lima de Andrade Borges, Luciana Matar Vilela Lemer, the federal council member by Espírito Santo State, Bruno Marata, the deputy chairperson of the National Committee of Foreign Relations, Grace Fonseca Stalker, the federal council member of the state of Rio Grande do Sul, and Michele Ramalho, federal council member from the state for the state of Paraíba. I would like to initially thank and greet all of them, men and women, who allowed this moment to happen in the City of Arts in Rio de Janeiro to open this important project, which certainly will generate an exchange of actions, protocols, and policies to be implemented in the different legal sphere of all the 20 countries. I would like to greet the different representatives of the different institutions who today attend this meeting and who are ready to, with us, engage in this project that is a grand project. I would like to also personally and institutionally thank my dear colleague Daniela Santa Cruz, the chairperson of the Cidade das Artes, who, along with us, will organize this event as a coordinator. I would also like to greet all those who are part of the Brazilian Advocacy Institution on behalf of the lifelong member Bernardo Cabral, our role model in terms of honesty, ethics, courage, inspire all of us and all the lawyers and attorneys of Brazil, all those who are part of these institutions, part of this event. Please feel my warm welcome and greetings on behalf of Mr. Bernardo Cabral. I would also like to mention the former President Felipe Santa Cruz and the others former chairpeople of the Bar Association, Roberto Busati and Ofir Cavalcante Jr., who today join us to open this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, as the chairman of the Brazilian Bar Association, the largest class association and union of the Brazilian civil society, I am honored to participate in this historical moment, this opening of the G20, legal G20. The Brazilian Bar Association thanks you and greets all of you who are dedicated to consolidate this moment. Globalization is not just an economic phenomena. Through our different actions on one side of the globe will daily impact behaviors on the other side of the globe. The creation of the legal G20 is not just a matter of the Brazilian Bar Association. It will reflect the relevance of lawyers in order to change structural issues. Today, we open a transnational platform. Our main purpose is to create a legal agenda highlighting democratic principles, human rights, legal security, and the good use of technology in our systems. Legal G20 is therefore the legal international forum of cooperation between the greatest economies of the world. The targets we have in mind will, of course, request the participation of jurists around the world in order to become reality. We are committed with the promotion of a legal culture structured for the development of sustainable development and for citizenship. Throughout the world, the different bar associations, different law colleges and associations represent civil society and participate actively in the decision-making process in the public sphere. In Brazil, our Bar Association is the constitutional voice of the citizens. We actively participate in the movement for redemocratization of our country, and we have taken all the necessary spaces between the different democratic institutions. We work with courts, tribunals, nationally and internationally, always championing our profession and human rights. Throughout the Brazilian presidency and G20, it is on our shoulders to bring together different continents, different jurists and attorneys to discuss different interests. The world advocacy has very similar demands, regardless of our cultural, legal, and political differences. Political stability, legal stability, Republican values are ideas that are something that we constantly pursue. We have a common history, the defense of advocacy and justice. In bringing together laws and cultures, Legal G20 has become a catalyst to make ethical transformations and the reinvention of global right. In our different communities and through joint decisions and deliberations, we will strengthen advocacy and beyond our borders. Ladies and gentlemen, the right of self-defense, to contradiction, to the due legal process, the different probation process, the guarantee of influencing courts through oral presentation are different topics that are part of the global advocacy. Our global agenda, therefore, will include the strengthening of basic rights for advocacy. Only a strengthened law and advocacy will be able to confront difficulties and to represent citizens in front of any court. We champion a justice where laws are not just read but also heard. The legal process will demand more than just procedures. It will demand the voice of reason. Today, more than ever, technology is part of all the areas of our lives. It is the resources that mostly used by attorneys, men and women around the world, in order to have access to information, novelties, tools. This is why it is internationally accepted that new technology, such as artificial intelligence and its impact in our profession. Not so long ago, we left a very serious pandemic. During the COVID-19 crisis, legal communities and institutions performed an important role in their different countries. And certainly, we have been working in the front lines in order to leave no one behind. This is the spirit that we would like to invite you all to participate in, an advocacy and laws that through union and solidarity will be able to confront the worst challenges of our era. Therefore, we have to think globally as we act locally. Our work here today, therefore, is not just utopia, but a reality and practice and our daily necessary life. Legal G20, therefore, has the responsibility of thinking, articulating, and implementing solutions for issues that will go beyond our borders and impact all of us. We truly need to guarantee social, environmental sustainability and energy and clean energy. And in the same way, we need to adapt our regulatory frameworks for a greener economy. It is our task to allow laws to promote practices that will preserve our environment and at the same time drive our sustainable development forward. We have to guarantee that our legal global community, through different strategic delegations, so that all its different voices and capacities be ready to deal with present and future challenges. In Brazil, respect to the law is something that is innegotiable. We will not admit any kind of backward thinking in terms of the main citizenship rights. In the same way, we will not go back in our fight for equality, for human rights, for the guarantees of the minorities. And if we add all the minorities, they become the majority. We have to have full parity, gender parity in all the different entities of the Brazilian Bar Association, advocacy without any kind of harassment so that women learnees will have equal pay and dignified means of work. We have to leave behind the logic of having men controlling the lives of women and denying them rights. We have to know that when a woman, be it her an attorney or not, if she's unable to advance in her career, no one will be able to advance. And I will go beyond. We cannot talk about gender without considering the ethical racial agenda. This is why I agree with Angela Davis when she says that when a black woman moves, the whole structure of society moves with her. We will not negotiate the confrontation with ethnical racial confrontations, gender issues, sexual orientation, gender orientation and identity, religion, or any other form in which differences will stop a person of having equality and equity. We will bring the message to all legal systems around the world from this point forward. The violation of any type of prerogative in any country of the G20 will threaten justice and liberties in all our legal systems. In Brazil, in France, in India, or in any other country, the disrespect of our profession, men and women, will be a confrontation. We have local struggles for justice. This is why we have to have a collaboration between our jurists. We have different bars, different law colleges, and different international institutions are part of this history. So once again, I would like to thank you all for being here. And now we have to use the word integration, and integration will be our mission. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Rio de Janeiro.
Agradecemos.
We would like to thank the national chairperson of the Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Simonetti, and we would like to invite the chairperson of the executive committee to officially implement Legal G20, the lifelong member of the Bar Association, Mr. Marcos Vinícius Furtado Coelho.
Alô. Permissão.
If you allow me, I will speak from here because I will be very brief. The Brazilian National Bar Association has already addressed you, representing our profession, representing all Brazilian lawyers. So maybe I will just make some explanations here, more of an executive observation. First of all, I would like to thank our colleagues, members of the steering committee, Carlos Eduardo Caputo, our chancellor, our ambassador. He is the deputy chairperson of the steering committee, the federal council members who honor us with their presence in our committee. I would like to thank all for the work. I would like to thank Grace, Michelle, all those who through their work have dedicated themselves. This is an idea that came to us a couple of months ago once we saw that Brazil as the president, the current chairperson of the G20, in this meeting that brings together different areas of integration between our countries, be it in the political sphere, economic, social, our foreign affairs. And if without the integration of the legal arena, if all the attorneys around the world were not participating in this integration, maybe we would not be as successful as we hope for the integration of other areas. Bruno Barata, member also of the committee, as Daniela Borges knows very well, the effort and the work we have done in order to show to our colleagues, our attorneys around Brazil, and not only Brazil but all the other G20 countries, of the importance of having the legal integration. Only with clear legal rules, with legal security, we will have a fruitful environment for social economic development, for human development even, of all our different nations. Brazil is internally committed with a pacific solution of our controversies. We want a peaceful world, a world without wars, a world that will be open to dialogue, a world that will understand, and us as attorneys more than ever, we have to preach the word that through a dialogue all controversies can be overcome, that any difference will have formal civilizatory moments that will be adequate for overcoming the differences and misunderstandings. War is not an option and should never be an option. Integration is the option, a dialogue, harmony, trying to build a fair, solidary society with a community of nations as we wish to build around the world. This is why we are very thankful and glad to see here that we had the satisfaction of having dear global leaders as we have here today, and I will refer to some of them. Prashant Kumar, the chairman of the Bar Association of India. I would like to ask you for a round of applause to Mr. Prashant Kumar. He works side by side with the Brazilian Bar Association for at least 12 years. When in, if I'm not mistaken, 2012, 2013, we created the BRICS Legal, which is the important initiative of legal integration of the BRICS country. This initiative that already has 10 years now inspires this transportation to the G20, something that is very successful within the BRIC countries. We also have the presence of the Deputy Chairman, the General Secretary of the Chinese Bar Association, Zhang Ming. Also asking for a round of applause to Mr. Zhang Ming. These are two honorable chair people from different bar associations and came from the other side of the world to greet us with their presence. A very long flight, I'm sure, to come here and join us. So we should always honor and thank them for the physical effort also they have gone through. I would like to say that the 20 countries are present here today. Many here on site and some of them virtually.
Dias, uma reunião interna dos líderes globais, em que dos 20 países, 17 países estão confirmados participando presencialmente ou virtualmente para esse momento da implantação do Legal G20.
Remotely or on-site, I'd like to greet the Mexican chairman of the bar, Mr. Pueblita, who was with us in the meeting in Minas Gerais some months ago. Brazil and Mexico play the role of leaders in the region. We have a number of common aspects, common challenges, as well as common solutions, and the cooperation between Mexican and Brazilian lawyers is very productive. We also have the chairman of the Spanish bar, Mr. Ribon. Thank you for your presence. Other delegations are here. I'd like to greet the chairman who have come here. But though everyone is here, those who have sent their representatives on site as well as those who participate online. Chairman, in addition to the opening session today, Presidents Felipe Santa Cruz, Alfir, especially Chairman Bernardo Sabat, the chairman of chairmans of the Brazilian bar, the rapporteur of our constitutional democratic republic, we owe him the democratic values by being a rapporteur for the Constitution and his contribution to our Magna Carta. And I'd like to greet the former chairman, Clea Carpi, also lifelong honorary Rui Barbosa Medal representative. And we will see today the signature of an agreement between Apex, Senator George Viana, who's here. We're going to sign an agreement between Apex, the export agencies, and the Brazilian bar. The agreement is going to turn Apex, the export agency in Brazil, in charge of exporting Brazilian products to the world. We are going to make sure Brazilian attorneys have the skills, as well as the legal G20 attorneys, those who would like to participate, those who want to help Brazilian companies that have the intention of investing abroad and exporting their products, as well as helping international companies that are interested in investing in Brazil in international contracts, in the various legislations of the various G20 countries. The idea was brought by Alfonso as well as Ayash, who is the state of Acre, chairman of the bar in Acre, who is the son-in-law of the senator who's here, which is to prepare Brazilian and international attorneys to help companies contribute to development. I'd like to greet Mr. Celso Barros Coelho Neto, State of Piauí, chairman of the bar there. I don't know if our global peers are aware. This is the most important state in the world. It's a great honor to have Council Coelho Neto here with us. We also have Council Luciano Bandeira, the chairman of the Brazilian Bar Association Rio de Janeiro chapter, our host, Bar, Erinaldo Dantas, chairman of the State of Ceará Bar, and I have already mentioned Daniela, who will take the floor, who is chairman of the Bahia chapter of the Bar Association. Tomorrow, we are going to have the legal systems in the various countries, economy and legal frameworks, green economy, sustainability, as well as energy transition, international regulation of new technologies, sanitation, and global health. We are going to have global leaders presenting, joined here, and we are going to read the legal G20 charter, chaired by Mr. Caputo Barros. Thank you for your presence here, and we are going to have the closing session with the Jorge Messias, Justice Jorge Messias, as well as the Minister Barroso, Chairman of the Supreme Court, as well as the Mayor of Rio de Janeiro, Mr. Paes. So these were the practical announcements by myself, who have been appointed to carry out this task in convening the ideas of the session here today. Every year, we know the presidency rotates. This year, Brazil is the president, is holding the presidency of the G20 every year. So the legal G20 is going to follow the same system. So we should be holding meetings in each countries where the heads of states of the G20 countries, so that international legal practice can show beyond our law offices, law firms, beyond our clients and their cases, that we have a commitment in turning this world into a more human, more equal planet, and that everyone should have the minimum basic life conditions so that everyone can advance according to their capacity. Global legal practice will be there for the world we live in. Holding hands, we are going to be advocating for integration, dialogue, and fraternity in building the just world we all want. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos as
We'd like to thank the Executive Committee Chair for implementing the legal G20, Mr. Coelho, and we would like to invite Council Sayuri Otoni to take the floor. She's the chairman of the Federal Council of the Brazilian Bar Association.
Senhoras e senhores, boa tarde.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Is with great joy that we meet here in Rio de Janeiro, in the city that continues to be wonderful, for the opening session of Legal G20, destined to transform legal practice around the world. I'd like to greet the Beto Simonetti, chairman of the Brazilian Bar Association, whose leadership strengthens our commitment to democracy and fills our hearts with hope for a better world. I'd like to greet Marcos Fetícios Furtado Coelho, president of the Executive Committee for implementing the Legal G20, for his leadership and excellency. Everyone who's here, everyone who has been greeted, but Mr. Coelho, I'd like to express, pay tribute, Chairman, to the Bahia chapter of the Brazilian Bar Association and all the women that represent legal practice in Brazil, Bar Council of England, Wales, Russia, South Africa, Australia, Legal Practice Council of the Society of League Anglaise, Frankfurt Bar Association, as well as all entities members of the Legal G20. The presence of everyone strengthens our commitment to consolidating the Legal G20. We go beyond economics, insisting in dividing social rights and economy. No economic debate should forget the human factor. We need equality, sustainability, sovereignty, plurality of cultures. At the same time, we need to make sure that the relationship between our countries is strengthened. We need to make sure we value equality, recognizing differences, and not to reproduce inequalities. As a woman lawyer, I reaffirm that we should be committed to freedom, life, protection of women in our territories. We want to continue to advocate for the rights within and without the legal practice. We need to make sure there is plurality from all aspects. We need to advance in sensitive issues such as green economy, sustainability, international regulation of new technologies that go beyond economic frontiers and that impact legal practice. Through Legal G20, we defend the prerogatives of legal practice with a global civil practice. We need more than knowledge. We need to think beyond seas through an international lenses. So we need to strengthen the bonds between nations for a just legal practice. Thank you very much for everyone who has joined us here in the historic moment. We would like to thank the General Secretary of the Federal Council of the Brazilian Bar Association, Sayuri Ottoni, and we would like to invite the member of the Executive Committee for the implementation of the Legal G20 and Chairman of the Bahia chapter of the Brazilian Bar Association, Counsel Daniela Borges. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start by greeting our chairman, Beto Simonetti, our Brazilian Community and Legal Affairs Chairman, Mr. Fernandes, Chairman of the Executive Committee for the implementation of Legal G20, and our lifelong honorary member, Mr. Coelho. Also, Chairman Felipe Santa Cruz, our dear Rui Barbosa Medal, inspiration to all female lawyers in the Bar Association, Clea Carpi. I'd like to also greet, as well as thanking for the hospitality, Daniela Santa Cruz, chairwoman of the Cidade das Artes, the City of Arts, the president of the Mexican Bar, as well as Prashan Kumar from the Indian Bar Association. Also, Mr. Guilherme Calmon, Mr. Zhang Mingjing, and Senator Jorge Viana, chairman of the Brazilian Export Agency, as well as our inspiration in the Bar Association, Mr. Bernardo Carvalho, as well as honorary member Zato, as well as Ofir Cavalcanti, president of the Rio de Janeiro chapter of the Brazilian Association, as well as the Ceará State Bar Association, Arinaldo. And I would like to greet all the chairmen of all chapters, as well as the Mercosul Council, Mr. Noronha, president of the Madrid College of Lawyers, as well the Mexican Bar Association, Mr. Santillana, the president of the International Young Lawyers Association. I'd like to enroll Mr. Guarnieri, president of Águas do Rio, Mr. Alexandre Bianchini. I will be brief. I'd like to briefly greet everybody. It's a great joy to be able to see this initiative, this unique initiative, and such a relevant one given the moment we live there. I'd like to then thank the organization for the initiative. Beto Simonetti has been defending the legal practice, seeking placing more value on our profession, in contributing for a just and more equal society, and working for defending human rights and consolidating democracy. I'd like to greet Mr. Coelho for being a leader in this initiative, showing his capacity to perform what's extraordinary. I'd like to express how honored I am being part of the executive community next to Mr. Cafuto, Council, Michele, Grace. It's been great to be working together with these peers in this project. Human beings live in a society. Since the beginning of times, we wouldn't be here if it weren't this way. But today we live in a global society. And we have been faced with global challenges, with complexities that have never been seen before. We are all connected. The decision of our nation, of our organization or company may have effects globally, creating for like G20 will depend on understanding if challenges are global, we need to build solutions together. Our destinies are connected. To see so many bar associations together shows that we're all connected and committed in making our contributions to the agendas of the 21st century for a peaceful society, to guarantee effective democracy, to reduce inequalities, in all its perspectives and dimensions, the sustainable development for all in an inclusive fashion. If only some make headway, it doesn't mean it's an advancement. Today, we are faced with issues that we could never imagine. The history of society is not only made of progress, sometimes it takes steps back. And I wonder if this time will be considered as a time of progress. And the responsibility is on the shoulders of everyone. And President Beto, as well as Chairman Marcos Vinicius. Today, we being here together, we're doing our part in history so that this time it is a time of progress, so that the institutions that are here today, through dialogue and cooperation, can share experiences and bring contributions to build a global, democratic, peaceful, just, and solidary society. And as a good person coming from Bahia, I agree with Caetano Veloso. I do not wait for the day that men will agree. I only think of harmony without a final judgment.
Agradecemos.
We would like to thank the chairperson of the Bahia chapter of the Brazilian Bar Association and member of the executive committee for the implementation of the legal G20, Ms. Daniela Borges. We'd like to invite the Secretary of the State representing the mayor of the city of Rio de Janeiro, Mr. Felipe Santa Cruz. My dear friends today, Caputo, I am like that person who is always now in accusation and not as in defense. And I feel that it's a bit schizophrenic for me currently. And normally now I'm representing the mayor. So please bear with me. I have to leave behind any kind of vices. So on behalf of our mayor, first of all, I would like to welcome all our foreign guests, and I would like to say that Rio de Janeiro is now, during this historic moment, very pleased to host the G20. Those who love the city of Rio de Janeiro, those who have helped us rebuild the city, know that we are confronted on a daily basis with very complex situations and conflicts and attempt to find solutions. But this is a showcase of our difficulties, but also our imagination and our solutions. So all those who are with us, both on-site and online, that we are here in the west part of the city of Rio de Janeiro, a region in which we have not so positive news, violence, criminality, areas in our territory that are overcome by criminal organizations. But of course, these are ailments that are not only part of Rio de Janeiro. These are things that we have throughout Brazil. But in the heart of this area, we have this beautiful building by Potsdam Park. And this are contradictions between civilization, beauty, and the culture and the love of Rio de Janeiro. Things that I'm sure you will get to know throughout the days. And our people who throughout the days love to welcome our guests, our visitors with this single culture. So thank you so much for your presence. I would like to, on behalf of Mayor Pais, to welcome the Brazilian lawyers and advocacy groups and institutions, Cleia, Vinicius, and on behalf of this wonderful chairperson of the Brazilian Bar Association, my dear brother-in-arms, Beto Simonetti. And I would like to ask you for a round of applause for Mr. Simonetti. I would like also, I could greet you in a playful, whimsical way as any Carioca person. And I know that it's very difficult to preside the Bar Association in the times of WhatsApp. Our bylaws did not understand how difficult it would be to talk to more than 1 million attorneys through WhatsApp. But Chairperson Beto Simonetti decided to follow always our bylaws and the Brazilian democracy. These are the parameters that guide Mr. Simonetti, and we are all feeling well represented by him. Of course, I'm like a brother, and he was my general secretary at one time, so I'm biased, I believe, but I still would like to thank him. I would like to thank the Cidade das Artes, the City of Arts, for this beautiful welcome, this beautiful setting with this event being transmitted in 4 languages. And I would like to, of course, thank the chairperson of the Cidade das Artes, my dear wife, Daniela Santa Cruz. So thank you very much. Rio de Janeiro is exactly this. It's an open city. We are passionate, but we are strong. And also Mr. Guilherme Camon, Elton Leme, Aloysio Gonçalves Mendes Castro, civil society of Rio de Janeiro, and the powers and institutions of Rio de Janeiro will certainly play an important role in the role that Mayor Paz has been performing. We will overcome and we will win this battle against crime, against those who do not embrace democracy. We will leave in a brotherly way with all the other institutions and all those who think and dream of having a peaceful land in the future. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos o pronunciamento do secretário.
We would like to thank the Secretary of our municipal government representing the Mayor of Rio de Janeiro. We'd like to thank Mr. Felipe Santa Cruz. We would like to invite the Chairperson of the Rio de Janeiro chapter of the Bar Association to greet you at this moment.
Quero dar boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, all my dear colleagues. I feel already represented by the words of my dear colleagues. So in a very brief words, I would like to greet all the authorities that were previously mentioned. On behalf of my chairman, Mr. Simonetti, chairman of all the attorneys and lawyers in Brazil, and also our lifelong members, the Rui Barbosa Medal Awards, my dear Cleia Carpi and Bernardo Cabral, representing all the different Rui Barbosa medals of in our country. And I would like to say that on behalf of the Rio de Janeiro chapter, to have Rio de Janeiro as the host of the G20 and to have the legal G20 event as a preparation for this important event that we will have in November in our city, I am sure that Rio de Janeiro will welcome all of you. And we have a beautiful city, a very well-organized city by our Mayor Eduardo Paes. And I am sure that Rio de Janeiro will create the positive and necessary environment for these main events that we will host until November, with its culmination in November, that will certainly produce many agreements, many policies, bringing us an advance in the civilizatory process. Thank you very much, and enjoy Rio de Janeiro. Thank you. We would like to thank the chairman of the Rio de Janeiro chapter of the Brazilian Bar Association, Mr. Luciano Bandeira. We would like to invite the deputy chairman of the Bar Association from China, Mr. Zhang Mingji, for his address. The dear heads of the delegations, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to be here with both familiar faces and new friends at this group of the G20 Legal Community event in Rio de Janeiro, the Carnival capital. At the outset, on behalf of the China Law Society, I would like to extend my warm congratulations for establishing the legal G20, and my profound gratitude to our host, the Brazilian Bar Association, for the efforts of organizing this conference. I would also like to extend my sincere greetings and best wishes to the representatives of the participating member states. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between China and Brazil. As two critical emerging markets and the biggest developing countries in their respective hemispheres, they are bound by a comprehensive strategic partnership and share common interests. The bilateral relationship is poised for a new beginning. We have a lot to accomplish together by building on our past achievements. The G20 summit was established against the backdrop of the global financial crisis. It has emerged as a universally recognized major platform for international economic cooperation and plays a crucial role in making a top-level planning for global economic governance. All G20 members should assume the responsibility inherent in our being major international regional players. All members should lead the example to promote the development of all nations, improve the well-being of humanity, and advance global progress. The current global landscape is marked by accelerated changes unseen in a century, coupled with a sluggish economic recovery. Peace and development face daunting challenges. In this context, the establishment of a legal G20 has become all the more pressing to explore the role of law in safeguarding the development of all member states. Currently, China is pursuing high-quality development and opening up. In its journey to advance the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation through a Chinese path to modernization, the country places paramount importance on the rule of law. Chinese President Xi Jinping has made significant decisions and plans to advance law-based governance in all fields, and the results speak for themselves. In 2022, China held the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. Its reports includes a chapter exposing on setting out specific requirements for law-based governance. According to the chapter, the advancements of the law-based governance has been a profound revolution in China's governance, and efforts should be made to build a modern socialist country under it. These statements reflect the rule of law fundamental and strategic nature. Then, at China's 14th National People's Congress in March 2023, numerous reports on the work surrounding strengthening the rule of law were reviewed and adopted. Even amidst complex and grave global challenges, President Xi reaffirmed China's commitment to openness, inclusiveness, mutual benefits, and win-win cooperation. He clarified that China is willing to work with all parties to cooperate on international legal matters to establish a fair, equitable, and transparent system of international trade rules. These trade rules should deliver direct benefits to people on the ground. The above set course for legal cooperation among the G20 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, to ensure a bright future, we've got to keep our eyes on the present. For us, the legal profession within the G20. That means deepening consensus and working closely to meet the challenges of our times through concrete actions. In recent years, Chinese legal practitioners have been involved in the rule of law exchange with the G20 countries and stepped up their research on legal issues pertinent to the G20 summit. One such endeavor is the BRICS Legal Forum, initiated by the legal communities from the 5 BRICS countries in 2014, was held successfully 8 times and has become a quintessential platform for exchanges and dialogues on the rule of law among the BRIC nations. Today, we are delighted to meet again with our old friends from the Brazilian Bar Association, the Association of Lawyers from Russia, the Bar Association of India, the Law Society of South Africa. It illustrates how a foundation for legal cooperation exists among the G20 countries. The China Law Society is ready to team up with everyone in this room and beyond to make things happen. Let's push forward the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative under the G20 umbrella. Doing so would further consolidate consensus, enhance mutual trust, and deepen cooperation in the area of the rule of law by leveraging the rule of law. By leveraging the rule of law. These efforts will contribute to the high-quality development of the invaluable G20 platform. I wish this conference a complete success and the legal G20 sustained success in the years to come. Thank you. Ni hao.
Agradecemos o pronunciamento do vice-presidente.
I would like to invite the Deputy Chairman of, Deputy Chairman of the Bar Association of China, and we would like to invite the national representative of the International Association of Young Lawyers, Mr. Bruno Guarnieri, for him to address the public. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to once again thank you all. I will not rename all the authorities here present, but I would like to say that the International Association of Young Lawyers, that are not that young actually, we work with 40, 45-year-old professionals, but still young. But we always try to work with all of the representatives from around the world. We have representatives of all different nationalities, and they are engaged in working in a democratic way to bring the development of democracy and the communities and around the world. As a representative of the International Association of Young Lawyers, I would like to once again highlight the words of all those who came before me by saying that, well, thank you all for inviting me and for the engagement that we will have from this point forward, the constant engagement of our association with legal G20. This is all I had to say. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Agradecemos o pronunciamento.
We'd like to thank the words of the International Association of Young Attorneys, Counsel Bruno Guarnieri, and would like to invite the chairman of the Indian Bar Association, Prashan Kumar, for his words. We are going to hear the Pan-African Bar Association, Mr. Kari Abdul Magi.
Good afternoon and namaste from India. It's a pleasure to be here on the invitation of Brazil Bar Association and my good friends, President Beto Simonetti and past President Marcus Vinius, and also the chairman of the G20 Legal Committee. Friends, it has been 10 years, full circle personally for me. I was in Brazil 10 years back in Brasilia to launch the BRICS Legal Forum. And today I'm here when the Brazil Bar is again taking the lead in initiating Legal G20. It was a natural progression for Legal G20 to be established here in Brazil, because this year's G20's theme, which Brazil has chosen, is building a just world and a sustainable planet. Now, when the word just comes, the justice sector and the legal sector is the one which must participate and take the lead. Because the word just, when we try to apply it in the global context, is building a just world with justice, which is social, economic, and political. So all these three bind together and create an order in which everybody in the world can thrive, the humanity can progress. This is also historic for the G20 itself, because from 2022, it is the global emerging powers which took over the presidency of G20. Indonesia, Bali 2022, India, New Delhi 2023, 2024 Rio here in Brazil, and 2025 in South Africa. So this becomes a meeting place for the so-called Global South or the emerging economic powers and the established powers. So this is a very important space for dialogue. And today, by initiating Legal G20, we are integrating legal communities from the G20 countries into this dialogue, which dialogue is very important to take the whole objective of G20 forward. My understanding is, without the legal communities engaging and exchanging views and presenting formulations to assist the goals and objectives of G20, the task may not be achieved that harmoniously or significantly. Why? Because as lawyers, we are not just gladiators fighting for our clients. As law associations, we stand for upholding rule of law and the principles of justice and human rights. We are the ones who are on the front line of negotiating a solution out of very tough circumstances while assisting the parties. We also carry out adversarial dispute resolution, but that also is predicated on understanding, on the ability to cut across various cultures, various historical backgrounds, to work together. Because even when you oppose, you must understand your opponent and from where it comes. So that's why integration of legal communities into the G20 dialogue is a very important step, and I congratulate the Brazil Bar Association for initiating it. And I hope in coming years it will go strength to strength, and it will become a very important part of the G20 initiative. Friends, as last year India was the host, and Indian Prime Minister Modi stated, this is not the era of war. Unfortunately, today we are back and confronting the world where the wars and conflicts are looming. And that is where we have to bring back that order, where the lawyers represent that things cannot be just solved on the war front. The things, the issues, even the most difficult issues can be negotiated, can be worked upon, can be resolved in a different setting. So with the legal G20, we must come together, not just to discuss these ideas, but also to see whether the global institutions which are working, and when we talk about establishing a just world, whether those institutions require a reform, whether they require building of certain more steps, certain more edifices around which we can ensure that the world is more just, is predicated on peace and not on war. And it is only the legal communities which can initiate that kind of reform, because international treaties and international instruments ultimately are the works of draftsmen who are mostly legal in training. So we, as civil society communities, can contribute to it. And we are sometimes better placed to contribute to it because we represent the communities. We don't represent merely the governments, and especially the governments of the time, because the governments of the time can keep on changing. But the core principles and values which legal profession represents remain constant. And it is that core values of the legal profession which are so important to see that the world moves on a path which is a path of peace, which is a path of justice and fairness, and which is a path of progress. The progress without economic justice, without fairness, without equal participation is no progress. And this message must go out today from here in Rio through this legal G20 to the larger communities of G20, that we as legal professions stand here together, bound by common values of fairness and justice, to send that message across, that we will take the global agenda forward on the basic principles of the rule of law, which we all are sworn to uphold. So I once again congratulate you. I have also been given the responsibility to convey the congratulations on behalf of Mr. Abdul Kari, who is the president of Pan-African Lawyers Association, which is a legal body of the African Union, which was admitted into G20 last year in New Delhi. President Kari Abdul sends not only his congratulations, he affirms that the community, legal community of Africa is solidly and firmly behind the establishment of legal G20 and the initiative taken by the Brazil Bar, and has congratulated President Beto Simonetti and Chairman Marcus Vinius for taking this initiative. President Kari has said that we must send a message to the leaders when they meet in the summit for G20 with a formulation on behalf of legal communities, and he hopes that it is going to open a new chapter for the G20 itself. With this, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. It's a wonderful place to be in Rio, and as a lawyer, I must say, as one of the speakers said that Rio faces challenges, but lawyers are bound to be where the challenges are, because lawyers thrive on challenges and lawyers find solutions to the challenges. That's what we are made for. So thank you very much again.
Agradecemos o pronunciamento do presidente da ordem.
We thank the chairman, Prasanna Kumar of India Bar Association. We would like to invite Eugenio Ribon from the Madrid Bar Association. Thank you. Dear President, I would like, first of all, to thank you for the invitation. I would like to congratulate the Brazilian Bar Association for the organization of the legal G20. It's a great honor to be part of the first legal G20, where we are joined with a number of representatives of the bar associations around the world. Tomorrow we're going to have the opportunity to have a presentation dedicated to this topic. Today, I am going to be greeting on behalf of our institution the College of Attorneys of Madrid, which was founded more than 400 years ago. This is the largest college in Europe with over 75,000 members. This is a bar where the legal G20 objectives are shared. It's not just to defend corporate interests, but also the interests of citizens that we represent, and defending the basic values of our professions, but also defending the rule of law. For the success, we need three elements. We need to be loud so that everyone can hear us, and we make it easier for our translators to have an easier job. But also, I need to be brief so you don't get bored with my presentation. So the Madrid College of Attorneys is a modern entity. Although it was founded more than 400 years ago, it has a high level of quality and transparency, and it's very democratic in its behavior. So we have a budget of over 150 million euros, and we have a very well organized structure. Today, we would like to contribute to the legal G20, and I hope I have managed to fulfill my three objectives. Thank you. We would like to thank the chairman of the Attorney College of Madrid, Mr. Ribon. We would like to invite the chairman of the National College of Attorneys of Mexico, Mr. Arturo Pueblita, for his words. Good afternoon, he says in Portuguese. Chairman Beto Simonetti of the Brazilian Bar Association, Marcos Vinicius, and all the honorary members of the Brazilian Bar Association, and everybody else. Good afternoon, everybody, men and women. It's a great pleasure to be here in this beautiful country. The fact is that Mexico and Brazil share some common characteristics. We have a number of things in common, and we have a common responsibility as leaders of the Latin American region, as well as members of the G20. I would like to say that it's very important to Mexico and the College of Attorneys to participate. We would like to thank the Brazilian Bar Association in the efforts in installing the legal G20 because it's a new function in legal practice. It's a natural evolution of legal practice. Attorneys have to stop having the perception that we only solve conflicts, which is part of our natural mission, but we need to play a very important role in developing, in building bridges to get to the better economic conditions, the social exchange, respect to human rights, protection of the environment. And this is what the effort of the Legal G20 is about. Congratulations on this initiative. You will always be able to count on the Mexican bar associations. We will work together, and I think it's great that we have found these connection points to work for a better Mexico, a more just Mexico, and a more just planet. Having a well-structured place for exchange of ideas, exchange of mechanisms, through which we will reinforce trade, culture, and the things we have in common. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos.
We would like to thank Chairman of the National Attorney College of Mexico, Mr. Arturo Pueblita. At this point, we are going to witness the signature of the cooperation agreement between the Federal Council of the Brazilian Bar Association, the Acre State Chapter, the attorneys of Rio Grande do Sul, and Apex Brazil. That is to establish partnerships and that will contribute to the technical development as well as legal development of attorneys so that they can work with skills in helping companies legally in the global arena. We would like to invite the Chairman Beto Simonetti of the Brazilian Bar Association, Apex Brazil, Senator Jorge Viana, Chairman of the Executive Committee of the Legal G20, Mr. Marcos Vicidio Furtado Coelho, Chairman of the Association of Attorneys of the State of Rio Grande do Sul, Mr. Afonso.
André, você é federal da Paraíba, você é federal do Espírito Santo, você é federal do Rio Grande do Sul. O conselheiro do Rio de Janeiro, são do comitê do Liga de Comburana também. É, porque
El camino fue desde el inicio.
A conta, você pagar um financiamento no BTG.
Agradecemos as
We'd like to thank all the contributions so far. So we shall move on. We'd like to invite Ambassador Leonardo Gorgulho for his words. Soon, Ambassador Leonardo Gorgulho, but at this point, Senator Jorge Viana, Chairman of the Brazilian Export Agency, to speak about the agreement. Good afternoon. I'd like to say that it is the first time I have the honor of participating in an event such as this one, led by the Brazilian Bar Association here, the Rio de Janeiro chapter. So I would naturally greet Beto Simonetti, just as myself, as well as Mr. Bernardo Cabral, our patriarch. He is our father, uncle, grandfather. He is our light, rapporteur of our Constitution. And I know for Chairman Simonetti is an honor, and for myself, it is an even greater honor to have been invited by him. And also my dear friend, Chairman of the Brazilian Bar Association, Marcos Vinicius, in a conversation that involved Alfonsine, involved my son-in-law, chairman of the Brazilian Bar, the Acre chapter, a suggestion from the Bar Association to have an agreement between my institution, the Brazilian Export Agency, that and with my technical team, highly qualified technical team, to have an agreement to internationalize legal practice, Brazilian legal practice. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt.
Foi governador e senador pelo estado do Acre. É bom que se...
and also senator by the state of Acre. So it's important to highlight this in his biography. But today, thanks to the invitation by President Lula, I was also mayor of one of the municipalities of Acre. And today I'm with Apex. Apex Brazil, the Export Association of Brazil, has an agency to promote Brazilian products and commerce. And I also attract investment. Yesterday, I was with President Lula in a mission to Colombia, and we did it along with Pro-Colombia, the Brazilian Apex and equivalent to the Brazilian Apex. We had an event with 500 business people, and it was concluded with the presence of President Petro and President Lula. I arrived 5 a.m. I came in his committee, and I could never miss this event. And our objective is always the same. It is the G20. We're talking about the G20. This group was created in 1999. I hope you remember this. It will bring together almost 80% of the world GDP. It will bring together 5 billion of those who live in this planet, 5 billion people. And it was created with the purpose of establishing greater dialogue between the different nations to establish economic policies that will improve the world, and also social policies that will improve the world. Last year, it was spearheaded by India, an emerging country, and also a reference in different areas. And today, it's with Brazil, and next year, it will be spearheaded by South Africa. So from December to November, we have the responsibility of welcoming the world, all the countries in their different formats, and to try and contribute, be it as a headquarter, be it as a part of the G20. And this is what the Bar Association of Brazil is doing here during the G20. We can talk about legal security for business, and this, of course, has to do with Apex. We can also talk about how we are able to have a greater exchange between our countries in what is my profession, to work with imports and exports. I was talking to Chairman Simonetti and with Marco Vinicius on my flight here, and I was talking about an experience I had in the Senate, my dear minister, Mr. Bernardo Cabral. I said that when I was a senator, we had a mission to California. And I have Bernardo Cabral, who was a rapporteur, and André, dear friend André Esteves, and becoming more and more international, and his success is the success of Brazil. I have no doubt that he's already very successful, but he was doing even more in Colombia. He was unfortunately unable to attend himself, but he made himself represented. And I was talking about the mission we had to California way back when. We had 5 senators, Ana Amélia, Luiz Nunes, my dear friend Luiz Henrique da Silveira, unfortunately already deceased, but Ricardo Ferraz and myself, we were looking at how the United States was transforming a desert and become 7th GDP in the world. California, I'm talking about. So let's learn with those who made it. I live in the state of Amazon, one of the richest areas in the Amazon. I have 30 million inhabitants and the worst social and economic indicators also in Brazil. So there are contradictions that we have to deal with, that we have to look into, observe, to try to understand in order to change them. And in California, it's no different. There are many questions I raised in California. And I said, what did you do? And the answer was very simple. Everything happened surrounding a research and knowledge center. They created universities such as San Diego, San Francisco, and others, which today are references around the world. So around this objective of increasing business started happening. And of course, you have Silicon Valley and many other things that happen. I no need to explain. There are lots of public policies, so we shouldn't never be afraid of public policies. The American government is one of the great buyers of the U.S. of different contracts, defense contracts, but they created a law. And this is where we come in as attorneys. I talked about this, and Marcos Vinicius said, why don't you talk about this during the G20 legal? They created a law in the 70s called Lei by Day or something like that. It's a law that will empower scientific knowledge, the research centers, and the universities. This is, in a nutshell, what the law is. The government will finance basic research, and if that basic work financed by the government, developed by a scientist or in a technical team, to create the possibilities to make that a business, the government will leave, private initiative will join, and there will be risks. But the scientists, those that develop that idea, will participate in the future business. If it works, they will become partners. You just stop and think about it. How interesting. I'm talking about the 70s. If I propose this in Brazil, someone will say that I want to do away with the autonomy of universities. And this is why in the U.S. universities are also self-sustainable. They are sustainable from an economic standpoint. And this is how a researcher, a professor, is able to do what they want. They can advance, and then they become millionaires. They can surf in the morning, teach in the afternoon, and go back home at night. But there's a part that interests all of us here. But I said, okay, I understand how it works. What is the second thing? And he said, well, the second thing is to have a good contract. What do you mean a good contract, I asked. I said, good. Have a good attorney, have a good law firm. And I had never heard this. André, you know what? Legal safety. We have to create patents. We have to, sell this around the world. And we have to have a good attorney. We have to have a good contract, or else that's going to go wrong. It's going to go wrong. So I was in awe, and this is what I'm bringing to you today. When I was the rapporteur of the biodiversity law, I tried to introduce these concepts. But what we're talking about here today is that, exactly that. Brazil, when President Lula took office, that the flow of, we had $100 billion in export and imports. When we reached $100 billion, they put a container in the Coastal Ministries, and Minister Fulon and Minister Lula came in. And when he left office, it was $400 million. This is 2010, when the last time Lula took office. And 14 years later, we have $6 billion in terms of import and export. This is just too little for our country. This is just too small, but it's so little. But it's also a great opportunity to grow. My work at Apex, along with the deputy chairman and other colleagues, Salvador and many others, is to broaden Brazilians' presence in the foreign markets. Does it mean that we can reach $1 trillion? Yes. How about the contracts between the companies, imports and import companies around the world? How does this work? Are we ready for that? Or are we going to have to hire attorneys from Asia, Africa, or what have you, to do business with China, for instance? So we have an enormous opportunity. And this is what this agreement means. That's exactly what it means. I've been at Apex for 1 year now. Apex has yesterday, President Lula said it's celebrating its 21st anniversary, Apex, this association. There's no headquarters. We pay rent of 1 million reais a month. But next year, I will launch Apex headquarters. And in our headquarters, we will create an university for foreign trade in order to prepare professionals, companies, and the Brazilian Bar Association will be there opening, because before the university we will create classes, courses, maybe even online, using the different tools we have available today, so that more and more attorneys and different law firms are able to work and to be hired. And of course, 2 good contracts will bring our legal security, so that we can broaden the presence of Brazil in the world. Brazil is part of the solution. We are no longer a problem as it was in the past in any area. Environmental crisis, Brazil is part of the solution. Food safety, Brazil is part of the solution. Food security. And Brazil is a fair place, as President Lula wants. We have included this in our agenda, and in November this will be highlighted. Brazil is part of the solution, because we do have programs to deal with the issues. In terms of perspective, of peace and harmony, we have no issues, and Brazil is a reference for that. So it is such an honor, and I'm sorry that I'm sleepless for 2 nights. I've known the President Lula for 40 years. We took 24 hours between going. We spent the whole day in Colombia. We even opened a book fair there, and we came back. And we came back to Brazil at 4:30. And he was there, strong and healthy, talking. He wouldn't let us sleep. But this is the President Lula I know. He doesn't want us to sleep, because he wants us to continue working. And I believe President Simonetti and the eternal President Max Vinicius and my dear Felipe Santa Cruz, it's an honor to be here talking to you. And this is what we want to do. And I'm here making myself available to the Brazilian Bar Association to broaden the presence of Brazil around the world through good professionals that Brazilian lawyers have. Thank you so much.
Agradecemos as palavras.
We would like to thank the address by the chairman of Apex, Mr. Jorge Viana, and we would like to proceed by inviting the representatives of the Foreign Office of Brazil, the Brazilian Community Secretary and Legal and Consular Issues, Ambassador Leonardo Gorgulho, for his presentation.
Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, Mr. Simonetti, President of the Brazilian Bar Association, on behalf of whom I'll thank for the invitation, the Chairperson of Apex Brazil, Senator Jorge Viana, Mr. Calmon, in the partnership with Itamaraty makes us very proud. the chairman of the legal G20, Marcos Vinicius Furtado Coelho, honorary and lifelong members of the Federal Board of the Brazilian Bar Association, more specifically our dear Mr. Bernardo Cabral, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the different foreign institutions, ladies and gentlemen, I will make a brief presentation about the priorities of the Brazilian presidency during the G20, which we took office in December 1st last year. And I would like to briefly comment about the activities of the consular area of the Brazilian Foreign Office. And in a certain way, this is what brings us all together here. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs coordinates the Sherpa tracks made up of 15 working groups, each one with their different specific priorities in the areas of health, education, culture, trade, investment, agriculture, tourism, sustainability, energy transition, development, jobs, risk reduction, research, innovation, digital economy, and anti-corruption. So it's a wealth of topics. This year, we also had the pleasure of inaugurated with Ms. Daniela the Women's Empowerment Working Group. It was created during the Indian presidency last year as a coordinator, a national coordinator in the planning and execution of the logistic activities of the Brazilian activities during the presidency of G20. Our foreign office has made different consultations and coordinations in order to prepare Brazil for this presidency. Today, G20 is the main area for economic and international cooperation, with the responsibility of dealing not only on economic topics and international cooperation, but social and development issues, which were critical for all countries. Behind many of the global issues is, I guess, inequality as a foundation, and inequality in terms of income, access to health, education, food, gender, race. And this is the origin of the different countries that afflict our populations. So, with the task to fight these inequalities, G20 established as a priority work conditions for this year to have social inclusion first, and the fight against hunger and poverty, energy transition, and sustainable development in its economic, social, and environmental dimensions, and third, the reform of the global governance institutions. First of all, we have to work double hard in order to do away with hunger in the world. If we are unable to do so, this is one of the main objectives of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And if we are unable to deal with it, we will be facing failure. In order to contribute to eradication of hunger and poverty, Brazil has created within the G20 a task force to establish a global alliance against hunger and poverty. We also need to work to promote sustainable development in its 3 dimensions, to sponsor energy transition, and to fight climate change. From the developing countries' perspective, sustainable development will only become a reality if we are able to preserve the environment, and the fight against climate change walk hand in hand with economic growth and social advances, which are in the interest of all our countries. In this context, Brazil created a task force for global mobilization against climate change in order to reinforce a coordinated answer of G20 against climate change, specifically with the national plans of environmental transition and a renewed agenda for the alignment of the financial sector to the Paris Agreement objectives. Another innovation of Brazil's presidency in G20 is a global initiative for bioeconomy, and it is structured in debates that will bring together science, technology, and innovation, and the use of biodiversity resources to promote sustainable development. We also need to act in order to strengthen the global governance institutions in order to live in a developed and peaceful world. International organizations need to reflect the reality of the current world, and they have to train themselves to confront the challenges of the 21st century, especially the difficulties of war, poverty, and hunger. The work of our Brazilian Foreign Office will work along with the Financial Ministry, coordinating the financial track, with 8 working groups. It is essential in order to advance with the different work and also to better align the funding sources for the needs and priorities of developing countries. In order to advance with all these objectives, the Brazilian program for the G20 presidency includes another 100 of official meetings, among them the leader meeting in November this year. 20 ministerial meetings, more than 15 deputy ministers and high officers, and a number of parallel events with seminars and technical visits organized with different entities of the academic world, governmental and business world, as well as international organisms. As I heard recently by Minister Mauro Vieira, if in 2023 Brazil is back into the world stage, 2024 the world comes to Brazil. As we say together, we are building a just world and a sustainable planet. This year, Brazil invited 8 countries which were not part of the G20 to participate in all the meetings: Angola, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Spain, Nigeria, Norway, Portugal, and Singapore. Another essential front of the G20 ecosystem, and among them the civil society, are the engagement groups, with the function of promoting a dialogue between civil society and the government. The Brazilian presidency will promote not only that, the social G20, a major event that will happen before the summit, to give voice and visibility to the engagement groups. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now briefly touch about the Brazilian consular services with the different competencies that will bring us together to the legal arena. As a consulate service, we will support the Brazilian community overseas. We have approximately 4.6 million people overseas. It is greater than the population of Uruguay, for instance. This community is supported by 190 consular offices around the world. Not only an assistance to Brazilian overseas, our consular network will have an important notarial role. In 2023, our consulates around the world have produced almost 600,000 consular services, among them more than 15,000 civil registries and 180 notary acts. So they contribute to the essential rights, such as a guarantee of original nationality through the consular report of birth abroad, the CRBA, or to facilitate the right to vote of Brazilian nationals that live overseas. We also work with the cooperation, legal cooperation internationally, in a partnership with the Ministry of Public Justice in the case of extradition and civil processes, and international private law, including Mr. Calmon knows this very well, with regards to the kidnapping of minors. Mr. President, with this event today, we open an important engagement group, the G20 Legal, and a very welcome initiative, and I will congratulate the Brazilian Bar Association for this event. Once again, I would like to thank you all for the invitation, and I wish the G20, Legal G20, a success in their debates and the preparation of the proposals. And from the State Department of Foreign Office, we would like to thank you to see the civil society organized within the context of G20. Itamaraty would also greet the ambition of creating a dialogue platform between the exchange of experiences, as well as driving forward the cooperation between the nations. Many of those who came before me talked about the need of building a fair world. So we therefore sponsor and support this group to find an integration and harmony and dialogue, as the chairman, Marcos Vinicius, referred to, and that this group will have in mind the priorities of the Brazilian presidency of the G20, especially the role of advocacy in reducing inequalities. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the important contribution of Ambassador Leonardo Gorgulho, and would like to invite for the presentation by Chairman BTG Pactual, Mr. André Esteves.
Bom, boa tarde a todos.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's better if I speak Portuguese, right? Well, Chairman Simonetti, dear friend Marcos Vinicius, our King Bernardo Cabral, congratulations on all the work and devotion to Brazil. Senator Jorge Viana has been a governor, mayor, senator, minister, and chairman of the export agency, where he is leading great work in promoting Brazil abroad. This is a different audience compared to what I'm used to. I usually speak to investors. For those who don't know, BTG Pactual, I am chairman of BTG Pactual. It is the largest investment bank in Brazil, in Latin America, or our dear Global South, which is a reason for great pride for us. And our main mission is to be the opening window of Brazil and Latin America to the world. The main job description of our institution, of our bank, is to introduce investment opportunities in Brazil and in Latin America for global investors of all types. And the reverse is also true, to offer global investment opportunities for Brazilian investors or Latin American investors. So, therefore, we represent in Brazil, in the region, a number of Chinese, Indian, Colombian, Mexican companies, as well as we represent Brazilian companies investing abroad. BTG has broker-dealers and banks in all Latin American countries. We are headquartered in Brazil, also Chile, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and a presence in international finance centers: New York, Miami, Houston, London, Madrid, Lisbon, as well as Luxembourg. So all the structure then leads us to managing $300 billion of investments in Latin America, coming from all places in the world, also including, obviously, Latin America. So a lot has been said, and our dear Chairman Jorge Viana has done great work in disseminating the opportunities we have, investment opportunities in Brazil, as well as opportunities that Brazilian companies may have in friendly nations. Well, at the end of the day, G20 governance is about that. It's about a more integrated, equal, closer world, and mainly a fair world. Unfortunately, this is not what we read in headlines every day. We see we are in 18 months ago, we were afraid of a divided world between East and West. Unfortunately, the fear became reality. We are living in a more divided world. We see reactions. We see a lot of radicalism, so far regional, but that leads to a lot of anxiety, as we see in the Middle East, as well as what we see in Russia and Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia. And obviously, this is a challenge to all of us. On the other hand, I'd like to bring a touch of optimism given this dark world. With all these events, the global trade is not going down. It's actually changing, but it's not going down in volumes. Once more, Senator President Jorge Viana mentioned the evolution of foreign trade that went from $100 billion to $600 billion in trade. Brazil is one of the top 5 net exporter. Our trade balance was about $100 billion. So we have these possibilities. So, and in these regions where we see conflict, there's also space for trade, dialogue, and investment. At the end of the day, our perspective on the Middle East is a different one. Here we have representatives of the Foreign Office, but at the end of the day, when you look at the region in the last 3 years, the Israeli Navy has done joint military exercise with Egypt. Israel and Saudi Arabia were very close to signing a trade agreement, something that was unmanageable in the past. A Saudi Arabia soccer team last year, for the first time, played in Tehran with the support of the Iranian society. MBS, the Crown Prince, as he's known in Saudi Arabia, has 95% approval rate among women. Now they can vote. No, they don't vote because they can't vote. There's no election. They can drive, they can go to stadia, and so he has 95% approval rate. So Saudi Arabia today has more cranes than China. 10 new mega cities are being built, a lot of them focused on tourism. All this landscape that I have described from different perspectives, it doesn't match wars. At the end of the day, the terror attacks we see is a reaction. It is born out of radicalism because they are the only losers from a world that is more inclusive, that's more transparent, that the region was just about to reach. So although there is this very anguishing situation, you have this positive perspective. Same thing for investment flows. Here in Brazil, the topic that was asked about, talking about legal security, we can mention an important recent example that happened here in Brazil last year. Brazil has a tradition of having auctions for transmission line, so you integrate the energy grid. So Brazil has been doing this for many years with stable rules. They have been through a number of administrations. It started way back in the Fernando Henrique, Lula first term, second, Dilma, Temer, the current government, more or less the same rules. So what's the consequence? In November last year, we had the largest transmission line auction ever held in Brazil. It was a Chinese company, the State Grid, that won the bid. BTG had the privilege of advising and having the project finance for State Grid. It is an investment of around 25 billion reais, about $5 billion. So direct $5 billion direct investment last year was one of the largest direct investments announced in the whole world. The entire world, a Chinese company, infrastructure company in Brazil. Very welcome. It's larger than the Intel factory announced by Biden in Texas. Sometimes we see great launches, $5 billion for 30 years. And sometimes this is washed down. Well, there's no transmission line. In 3.5 years, there's going to be a transmission line, and that will have cost $5 billion. So, why did this happen? Because of a combination of two factors. First of all, clear rules. We have been following the same transmission line auction rules, and that naturally brings security, confidence to investors, domestic and international ones. Secondly, what is Brazil? Brazil and the G20, promoted and coordinated by the Foreign Office in Brazil, is a clear example of what Brazil thinks of global governance, a harmonious, inclusive one, and that we practice on a daily basis. Brazil has good relations with all region blocs, with the United States, good relations with China, with Europe, the Middle East, Africa, our neighbors. So this should be an example, a role model for this divided world. And sometime last year, we were importing fertilizers from Russia and from Ukraine at the same time. Very few countries have this capacity to trade, extend relations with all countries around the world. So this is our tradition, diplomatic tradition, that is beyond government terms. It is not a political will. This is a will from society. So this message goes beyond. In addition, for Brazil being open to all investors here, Chinese, Indian, Mexican, Spanish, and I have just mentioned the main investors in Brazil together with Europe. In addition to being welcome and treated as Brazilian investors, there's a second element, which is a precondition for success, which is stability, economic stability, political and institutional stability. Although we have achieved a certain degree of stability, be it political or economic stability, so this is a plant that needs to be watered on a daily basis, but there's no such big mystery. Inflation is around 3.54%. This is an information, George, for you. In these 4 years of Lula administration, if nothing different happens, will be the lowest inflation of all 100 years combined. And then our second obligation is to keep a certain degree of fiscal discipline. Brazil has managed inflation, foreign accounts, with one of the most robust balance of payments. We had, as I mentioned, $100 billion, only China and Germany above Brazil. This year is going to be around 90 billion. We have 350 billion in reserves. Foreign debt, which is 1/3 of our reserves, 1% of current account deficit, not just around the world, not just emerging economies. And we are at the last leg of our fiscal adjustment. We still have a primary deficit. It's not a very large one, but it's there. And I hope us as a society, we will become more and more aware that Brazil is just like our company or our home. You cannot spend more than you make. If you spend more than you make in your personal life, in your company, in our association, things are not going to go well. It's the same for our nation. When you start spending more money than you make, you're making a choice. You're making a choice of putting the burden on the future generations. It's nothing complicated. It's not ideologic. It's not policy A or B, party A, B, or C. It's not a choice. It should be a duty and a discipline. And this discipline that has led us here can take us way beyond this combination of factors. Added to what God has given us, Brazil is one of the largest renewable energy mix of the G20. So a large percentage of the energy mix in Brazil is renewable. Other countries are going there practically without any subsidy. Renewable energy in Germany, yeah, you can make it, but it's going to cost a lot. What God has given us in terms of water, sun, and wind is unique, which is a renewable energy mix. All the reindustrialization conversation has to go through this. Should be cheap renewable energy and open doors for anyone who wants to enjoy this, naturally following our rules that are open and transparent to everyone. And you're going to be treated in an equal way in a society that's well prepared to receive investments. I think this position in terms of natural resources, a good relationship with all countries and our economic discipline that we have shown, all this together, a consolidated, robust democracy, there's no doubt that is going to continue for many, many years, which is the security that everyone can feel that they can come here and enjoy the opportunities of this wonderful country. Well, thank you so much to the Brazilian Bar Association. It's a great pleasure to be talking to you here. I hope I get my bar soon. I always joke about this. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope that we can maximize the G20 so that we create a more harmonious, equal, and happy world. Thank you so much.
Agradecemos a
Would like to thank the relevant contribution of the senior partner and chairman of BTG Pactual, Mr. Andres Davis. We would like now to wrap up the opening inaugural session of the Legal G20. We would like to thank all those who were present here today, and we will like to inform that tomorrow we'll be starting at 9 with legal institutions and legal systems of various countries. We wish you a pleasant afternoon.